Hello, my name is Andrew William Smith. I'm putting on my teacher hat for a moment, and a rainy Saturday at the end of January. Can't think of a better time to do a few live streams. It's been a little bit warmer out, but pretty gloomy. So we're going to get into it. And this one is for my fellow teachers. I made a post a couple days ago about my switch to co-grading in my first year writing courses, where I teach in a first year writing program at a public 4-year university. And I've been doing this kind of work in some form or fashion for about 25 years, since the late 1990s. And this video is just going to be a quick introduction to it. And I'm going to supplement this with an essay I wrote, ended up being about 3,000 words on the topic. And then I'll also share with anybody who's interested some of my teaching materials where this is actually put into practice. So this is my little spiel, some notes toward co-grading. And this is going to be in the context of first year writing class, but perhaps applicable in other courses that you're teaching as well. For me, this change from traditional grading came from necessity, desperation, and career preservation. About a year ago, I was entering the in-person classroom for the first time after the COVID pandemic years, and I stayed online teaching after the so-called shutdown or quarantine period, because I was finding it actually quite enjoyable to teach an online synchronous course. I found it to be a lot of fun, and my students seem to be doing very well in those courses. In those courses, I learned to do group-wide workshops instead of the old peer workshops where I broke them into groups. And these group-wide workshops were an entire class working collaboratively using Google Documents in a virtual environment, and then also collaborating on the same paper. And I ended up spending a lot more time in workshops than I did in other forms of content delivery. And I found out that the freshman writing class could really just be a writing workshop, and their work is the main topic of the class. They always can improve on the work. But I also was getting assigned back into in-person, and that semester I got 3 sections of writing where I'd been previously teaching 2 sections of writing, and I hadn't taught that many sections of writing really in about 15 years. And I was super not ready, maybe 12 years, I don't know, but it'd been a long time since I had that many sections of writing. And I was having a little bit of an existential, moral professional crisis. And then the chat GPT freak out happened all at the same time. And so I was like, I've got to do something just so I can maintain my motivation and my positive attitude for my profession. And so I made this change because I needed a change. And the old ways weren't working. It reminded me so much almost of getting sober, or when I left the professional clergy a few years ago. It was just a break you had to make. If you are happy with your assessment in your English 1010 or English 1020 or English 1 or 2, your Comp 1 or 2 courses, and you don't feel like you're spending too much time with assessment, it's not invading your personal life, it's not taking a lot of hours, it's not frustrating, it's not feeling pointless at ever times. If you're happy with your grading assessment, maybe don't watch the video, maybe don't even consider this, but this is for people that are open to trying a new form of assessment. Maybe you can pilot it for one assignment just to see if you like it. But I've tried so many different modalities of assessment, using a rubric, not using a rubric, using a lot of narrative, not using a narrative, using a lot of conferencing, not using a lot of conferencing. I've tried everything in first year writing assessment, and I don't think there is a perfect one size sort of thing to do. One of the things that I really finally just had to bang my head against the wall, there's a fake brick wall behind me. I had to bang my head against the wall because I realized that, especially in the writing curriculum, where I had to develop a sort of system where it took at least 10 to 15 minutes per paper. I've heard of colleagues spending 30 minutes to an hour on a single essay. And a lot of times this was happening at night. When I was tired, it was happening while I had to have some kind of mind-numbing background noise, whether it be movie or television. Before I got sober from alcohol, which has been a long, long time ago, I used to drink while grading always. A lot of it was happening on Saturday and Sunday mornings. This is taking away from my quality of life, is taking away from my self-care, my family time, my Sabbath time. It was my time for my spouse or my children or my in-laws or my mother, my aging mother. And it's not really built into any sense of what I am to be compensated for professionally. I believe that in most of our cases, any take-home grading is voluntary donations that you're making, and I'm not willing to do that anymore, at least not right now. I don't, and I'm not saying I don't do some of it. I actually do still do a little bit of it, but not in the first year writing course where it was the most labor intensive and it was the hardest work to get done. So I'm really saying this part out loud and acknowledging that if I do that, that's on me. If I voluntarily give up that time, family time and otherwise time, that's on me. What I'm calling co-grading, I think, is very, very similar to contract grading, but it has a few key differences. The contract grading modeling I've been seeing out there and I've read about and I've been to a couple workshops about seems to imply that there's a lot of negotiation at the front and back end of it, maybe more conferencing to do that negotiation, and that there's a higher level of labor for the top grade of an A in a writing course. Now remember, these are required courses. These are not optional. And students do not take freshman composition as an elective or as a part of their major per se. This is a competency, skills-based class that is required to have competency for all members of the community who intend to graduate, whether they've taken that through another means, such as a dual credit high school or through a proficiency exam. Competency in this skill set area is required of all graduates of the university. And so the grade for me is a little bit different in this context. But to go back to the contract grading, I was seeing models for contract grading where students were choosing in advance to contract for an A, B, or a C. I was not comfortable with that. I think every student wants to make an A, and I think every student is entitled to have a path made for them to make an A. So I just assume that all of my students want the contract of an A, and I've built in the system of co-grading to make that path achievable for all students who choose that path. And I've also changed the overall points required for an A on my overall course syllabus, and I've made the points for an A starting at 85, whereas they used to start at 90. I have really had to face up to this, and the more I learned about it and the more I read about it and the more I studied it, the more I realized is that in a writing course, no matter how fair I want to be and no matter how many guardrails and benchmarks and published vetted criteria I can establish for each component of the essay. I mean, I can break an essay down into its smallest component parts in terms of where the points are being assessed and assigned, where the proficiency is needed by the student. I still believe that traditional grading, where the paper is turned in and the instructor grades that in isolation, meaning they don't have any witnesses and the student's not present in the room while they're grading, and they're grading on their own time. They're not grading, during right in the bounded business hours, that it can be incredibly subjective for reasons that we wouldn't want to admit and reasons that we're not proud of, but that subjectivity slips in. And I also think there are other assessment errors that can be made where we can misgrade a paper accidentally and assign a grade higher than is correct or lower than is correct based on a whole lot of extemporaneous factors that are, extenuating factors that are, that's what I meant, extenuating factors that are outside of the world of the paper, and that include our own exhaustion and our own resentment to the fact that we're doing work at home that we're not getting compensated for. And so when I'm not doing the assessment, when they're doing the assessment in the co-grading worksheet, my error is taken out of it. So how do I actually do this? This is the part that people are like most wanting to know. And mostly what I wrote in my essay notes is more of the rationale for why I do it. But I start an assignment. We have the assignment sheet. That's very similar to the way I've always done it. And I teach it. I front load the class with a very, well mapped out assignment where the prompt is very clear and all the components and the criteria are all mapped out. They've given the grading worksheet in advance where all of that's broken down into components, and they have the opportunity to fill out that worksheet at the end of the unit. So then we do a peer workshop, which is a class-wide peer workshop. And we do the class-wide peer workshop for several days. Right now I have 24 students, and it's going to take us 6 days to do the workshops. 4 people are going to go a day. They're all going to be rewarded for participation points just for showing up and doing the workshop. And we're going to, in real time, there's one person will be presenting. All the other students in attendance, 22 or so students, plus myself, will all be working with them together. So this is doing the work I would do in one-on-one conferencing and the work I might do in a one-on-one grading assessment. And I'm doing it in real time on the rough draft with everybody else, with witnesses, and we're all doing it together. And we've created this kind of like cheerleading team atmosphere where we're all like, just super like amped to help each other and get each other going. And the first day of this particular semester was overwhelming with how exciting it was. There was an energy in the room. The students were fired up and proud of their work, and they were excited to give really strong criteria for and encouragement to their colleagues. And we're trying to remove any anxiety and also any competitive aspect. I'm not saying that the students aren't going to be a little bit anxious or nervous the day that they present, but everybody's got to do it. And you only got to do it one day, and there'll be several days where you'll get to be one of the people providing the comments. And at the end of that, they revise, they hand in the final draft, they complete the co-grading worksheet. If they want help, I will sit with them and work through the co-grading worksheet with them. If there are like overwhelmingly obvious objective errors in how they co-graded themselves, I'll, let them know. But normally I'm just going to completely, like totally trust the process with them. And as it'll be, now I'm into my 3rd semester. We're starting my 3rd semester of trying this co-grading, and I'm really a big fan. And I'm really excited about it. I want to share this with everybody else because it's working, and I definitely think it's saving me time and sanity. But I think we are having these incredibly productive class experiences. I think class time is much more productive when it's about their work and not about me just kind of delivering content. And some things that I've given up on is the idea that we have to spend a lot of days discussing an essay that they didn't read before they came to class, and doing a close reading. Now, there are other courses where I think a close reading of a text together in real time, can be beneficial. I'm not against close readings of text or interpretations of text. And if you're doing that in your class and you feel it's really beneficial, don't take my word on why I've chosen to leave that out of the curriculum. There's several whatabouts. Major whatabouts have to do with cheating, and AI and plagiarism. And I have to say that I don't participate. I try not to participate in any punishment driven, any suspicion driven, any accusation driven, any sort of policing of their private work habits. I'm just going to assume that it's their work. I've also tried to remove the motivation for cheating by creating assignments that are hard to cheat on, and also creating a grading system where they're all on the path to getting an A. So why do I need to cheat if I don't have a motive to cheat? And I have definitely responded to the whole AI chat GPT freak out by really rethinking and working on this, because I want them to try writing. And there's a lot of first person, even in formal academic argumentative papers. I'm encouraging a lot of first person investment. There might come a situation related to the practicality of this where I sort of fall flat on my face, but I have to, now that I've chosen to go this way, I have to trust the students, and I have to trust the process. And I have to trust the process that I have set up with a great deal of thought and a great deal of care for why I think it's the right way to do this. Now, as far as grades, I don't really believe in grades, but I know that they're necessary. And so I've built this around a system where students can honestly earn an A with a great amount of integrity and joy and pride in what they've done in their own work. And I don't really believe in the idea of grade inflation. I don't believe in the idea of the curve. I do believe in kind of, if you will, an assessment socialism, if it can be achieved as such. Now, of course, it's not ever worked completely. I still have probably a higher GPA class-wide than my peers, but a lot of my peers in teaching, but there's still students that, for whatever reason, get a B or a C, and that's okay too. But we're trying to avoid a student ever flunking a required course who's attempted to complete all the tasks before them. I would not want any student who's paid for the class and has made an honest attempt to complete all the tasks to earn anything lower than a passing grade. I'm really excited about this. I'm going to share this video with a lot of my friends, and I'm going to hope that I will get some good questions and some good feedback, but also hope that I might inspire somebody who wanted to try this, who didn't know that they could do it, that they could try it. One of the whatabouts is, am I allowed to do it? I'm so grateful the writing program where I work just had a workshop just a short time ago on contract grading. I'm pretty excited about it. My name is Andrew Smith. I teach full-time for a living, and I'm really honored to be able to share this little tidbit with you. I hope you find something from it that you can use, and I'll share all the documents with anybody who wants them. Thanks for coming to my live stream.